What's going on, guys? Welcome back to NolanTCG, and we are here today for my next Platinum 1 deck profile. So we literally just did it on stream. The stream is up. I'll leave it up if you want to come and watch it. It's a good, solid 5 hours of me grinding through gold and plat. But yeah, in the end, we got there. We played 60 cards, 60 card Granite FTK. Surprisingly still consistent. It realistically just felt the same as playing the 40 card deck, except if I drew grass was just straight up game. There were obviously a few changes to the list because you got to pad it out to 60 cards. There are some recommendations that we'll talk about as I go through. Hopefully the audio for the game isn't too loud on here, but we'll go through the list as we go. So starting us off, 3 copies of Gem-Knight Lapis, of course, the card that makes your whole burn go around. You want to be able to see this as quickly as possible. We are now playing 2 copies of Garnet in the deck. So the biggest reason that Garnet stayed in the deck long term as I played through the night is that in situations where I either got max seed or I got hand trapped in some way, if I could Seraph Knight a Rescue Rabbit or find a way to get to the Gallant Granite, I would then just be able to search Nibiru and then protect myself for the next turn. And that was essentially the reason why I kept the 2 Garnet in, because I realized that I can summon the Rabbit off Seraph Knight in situations where I felt Rabbit might not be the best starter, and then you can go into Gallant Granite after that. Then next off, we have 3 copies of Gem-Knight Lazuli. Of course, the card that whenever it's sent to graveyard by card effect, adds back your normal monster. This lets you go plus so hard, especially off the next card, which is Crystal Rose. So 3 copies of Crystal Rose coming through after that. This card, very, very good. So underrated in this deck. You can use it to Foolish Burial off your Lazulis to allow you to go plus, add back your normal monsters. Also summons itself back by banishing normally your Zakona from graveyard. And then it lets you go plus again, lets you just constantly rotate resources and keep moving. Then we played a full Adamantipator line, so we played 3 Seeker, 3 Researcher, 3 Analyzer. I felt as though buffing them up to 3 was the correct thing to do as I was playing 60 cards now. They did their job. It's very rare that they hit in this kind of version of the deck. You only have a third of your deck is a target that can be summoned off Adamanticators, so it's not the best kind of route. I'll typically add a Crystal Rose off my Block Dragon instead of adding the Researcher, simply because it's a guaranteed plus as opposed to where the Researcher is kind of a gamble. Then we see next off the Gem-Knight Obsidian, another card that is amazing in this deck. You get that free special summons of your Lapis. Does come up where you can summon Garnet as well, which is always something to keep in mind. The next up, the engine, I didn't use it at all, was the Predaplan engine. I saw Darlington Cobra like it was nothing. It was in my hand so much, and I think I only ever saw Orphus Scorpio once, but I saw Orphus Rabbit, and I felt Rabbit wasn't a straight minus, so I went for the Rabbit play instead. Then we see 3 Ash Blossom. Realistically, I was going to cut these from the list. Put in massive amounts of work. Ashing Max C came up a lot, so definitely something I would consider keeping in there long term if you're looking at pulling the deck. 3 copies of Gem Armadillo coming through after this. One of your best normal summons in the deck. Just being able to search out everything, so good card. Another normal summon, 3 copies of Rescue Rabbit. Of course, you're Rescue Rabbiting into the Lapis. Wouldn't recommend this in the 40 card build. Definitely would recommend this in the 60 card build. Very, very good card to have. 3 copies of Analyzer, of course, as a part of your Adamantipator engine. Something to touch back on the Rescue Rabbit is it is an Earth, which means you can also banish it for your Block Dragon in situations where you're not using the Rescue Rabbit. Because Block Dragon is the card that comes up next. It's at 3. Yep. It's just at 3. It's really, really good. Makes the whole deck work. And then lastly, the last monster in the list, 1 copy of Nibiru. This was going to be 3 copies of Nibiru. I just didn't have the ultra rare tickets to craft it, so I opted to go for 2 Imperms that I'd already crafted. The Imperms actually came up quite a lot as being played in the deck. There was a lot of times where I saw Imperm Nib or Ash Nib or a diverse range of hand traps where I may not have seen a diverse range if I was playing the 3 Nibiru. So it's not terrible. The Nib's searchable as well, which is always fine. 3 copies of Poly literally worked once through my entire quest through Platinum. I definitely probably suggest switching this for Black Garden. Black Garden is so free. It just facilitates the FTK so much easier. And Poly, yeah, as I said, only came up once. Then after that, we've got 1 copy of Monster Reborn with the 1 copy of Foolish Burial, 2 power 1-offs. You gotta play them in this list. 3 copies of Gem-Knight Fusion, of course, card makes the whole deck work, with 3 copies of Unexpected Die because you're going to be summoning your Lapis from the deck going back at the start, and then you start playing after that. Gives you the free name. This deck is devoted to just trying to generate free names, so it's a free name. 3 Grass. My opponent scooped almost every single time I resolved this. This is so good. The fact that, say you send Lapis and Lazuli off the grass, your Lazuli adds back your Lapis, you go hard plus. Sends your Gemnite Fusion, you banish, you're definitely going to banish it, have a Gemnite to banish, so you banish it, add it back. You have Block Dragon, your Block Dragon's 95% of the time going to be able to just summon free right there and then. Grass, very, very good in this deck. There is no downside to grass being a thing in here at all. As I said, like the Darlington Cobra or for Scorpio package, like it's good, but it's not like insane. So the grass package just works better. And then we've got 3 copies of Science. Same reason as the Monster Reborn. You're playing the grass, so Reborns. 1 copy of Brilliant Fusion. Card's still insane, so just play it at 1. Because it's at 1. And then we're now at 2 copies of Call by the Grave, just filling out the list with cards that can just help us go off. And then lastly, those 2 Imperms, we touched on it earlier. They can be nibs if you'd like them to be nibs. The Imperm, though, came up a lot more. Extract is still unchanged from the 40 card build. I would, again, still recommend cutting the Lady Brilliant. Lady Brilliant hasn't really done as much work as you think it would. So the Extract, I don't know if you're new to this, we'll go through the Extract again. It's 1 copy of Seraph Knight. You definitely need to be playing this. You cannot cut this card. The Seraph Knight is required to be able to go really hard plus off your Union Carrier play to get the Block Dragon through. 3 copies of Lapis Lazuli coming after this. Again, makes the whole burn everything go around. 3 isn't super necessary, but in my opinion, 3 keeps you safe, so just play 3. 2 copies of Zirconia. Definitely play 2. Don't play 1 Zerk. The 2 comes up so often. There was one point through my kind of climb where I needed 3, so I had to shuffle 1 back off my Phantom Quartz to be able to then generate the 3rd. And then, of course, that then got me through to the FTK. 2 copies of Master Diamond. Again, you can play 3 in this, cut the 3 of this. It hasn't come up to me yet that I needed 3. I'm sure there are situations where 3 would be optimal. But yeah, I would probably honestly just recommend playing that over the Lady Brilliant Diamond if you are building the deck. Then, Gallant Granite. Originally, the 40 card build, this didn't come up very much. Now that I've added the nib, the Gallant Granite comes up a lot, simply because you want to add that nib when you feel as though you might not be able to FTK, and you can kind of just still free generate as much as possible and going off with that Gallant Granite. Given that Master Duel prompts when your opponent has a hand trap, I'll just typically go into the Gallant Granite to try and force something, and if it doesn't, you add the nib. Then if you get hit later, you can just drop the nib on them, and then you're definitely not going to die. Nib's a rock monster on your board, you can go plus off that. Then we go into the links, still 2 Phantom Quartz. 2 is perfect, don't play 3, 2 is the right ratio. Of course, adding your Gemnite card, you'll typically be using it to add either Gemnite Fusion, Gemnite Obsidian, or Gemnite Lapis. In that order, typically, I'd go Fusion, then Obsidian, then Lapis. Hulk, very, very good in this deck. You need it to kind of rotate the bodies that you have on board. 1 copy of Union Carrier, again, 100% necessary, gets you your Block Dragon play off. And then the last card in the main deck, 1 copy of Access Code Talker. In the last video, I said that this is a perfectly cuttable card. It still realistically is a perfectly cuttable card, but it is the card that you're going to be using to generate pretty much game against trap decks. You want to play until you can kind of draw as many traps out as possible, then you make an access code, clear their board. They're typically kind of stuffed from there because they've activated all their traps this turn. They're not going to be able to activate them next turn, especially in that Eldritch. Like they've already used them all. They won't be able to just go free plus on your end phase. They have to wait until their end phase to do it. But yeah, that does wrap us up here for our 60 card Gemnite list. Very, very good list. Again, I think the only thing I'd recommend is probably the Black Garden for the poly. But yeah, if you do have any recommendations to the list, do make sure to comment them down below. And as always, I've been Ben from NolanTCG. If you want to see combos, do check out the live stream. It's 5 hours of me comboing off, so you're going to have a lot of choice there. And as always, have a good afternoon, everybody.